In 2020, we had half of our business in cash, which was not making any money, and it was very clear that we needed an asset that could bring in more money than the cost of capital if we wanted to be as successful as Wall Street firms. In a world where 40% more money is printed, all of your assets have to go up in price by 40% to keep things equal. This is why the cost of capital went up. In January, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission cleared 6 spot Bitcoin ETFs. This was the start of a new era for cryptocurrencies and digital assets. Michael Saylor, founder and executive chairman of MicroStrategy, said that the SEC's approval helped Bitcoin go from being worth several $100 billion to being worth $10 trillion or $100 trillion. But Saylor thinks that the decisions changed American politics because the ETFs made Wall Street realize how big the internet business is. In the US, people were afraid of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but now the business has an impact on the election. At the Libertarian National Convention on Saturday, former U.S. President and Republican nominee Donald Trump spoke out in favor of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. He promised to grow the U.S. business if he wins in November, which got a lot of applause. Trump promised that Biden would not mess up crypto. I believe in both Bitcoin and U.S. dollars. Please look out for the health of 50 million crypto users. In What Bitcoin Did, host Peter McCormack and I promise to keep your Bitcoin safe from Elizabeth Warren and her goons. That should never be allowed by a central bank. Saylor tells politicians who don't believe in crypto that change is coming to Washington and that they need to join or face penalties for not supporting a great business. Saylor said that if Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies become popular, Wall Street and banks would force lawmakers to say no to them. Have fun with the show. Guy? Okay, so what did you do? Well, big tech stocks went up and real estate went up too. Those things do go up, but cash doesn't. If you had a lot of dollars, they weren't worth 40% more in 2023 than they were in 2020. During our search, we thought about buying art, real estate, the index, and big tech companies. You can't just buy stocks because of rules from the government. If your business is publicly traded, you usually can't have more than 40% of your cash on hand in securities. So you can't just spend $500 million on SPY. But even if you did, there's the matter of reality. If you told all of your investors, we just took all this money and invested it in the SPY, they would say, why is that interesting? That would be the most common thing you could do. Give us back the money. Even a 12-year-old could do it. That's how we learned about gold. Then we gave it some thought. We chose digital gold over gold because it was better. If there was a non-sovereign way to keep value that didn't involve a sovereign, it would be hard money. In 2024, we thought it would be a good idea to combine the idea of investing in technology with the idea of spending real money. That's why the quick death wasn't so great. You might as well sell the business if you're going to do that. The slow death is set on $600 million in cash. With that much cash, we could run a business at a loss for 20 years. But you're just waiting to die, right? It seems like you can't beat Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook. Being stuck in your fortress while the army is outside is the same thing. They will starve you to death. Plus, I have enough food for 7 years in my citadel. But while I'm gone, they'll burn down all my farms, mess up my water supply, and take over the rest of the world. People will have forgotten about me when I come out again in 7 years. That's not good. The Senate revoked the SEC Staff Accounting Bulletin 121 on May 16th. This bulletin put strict capital requirements on crypto caretakers, which made banks' crypto custody difficult. Before the House decided to get rid of SAB 121, Cody Carbone, Chief Policy Officer for the Chamber of Digital Commerce, said that the White House had threatened to veto the resolution and bring back the SEC's accounting rule. After Biden got the resolution last week, the president had 10 days to either veto it, overturn SAB 121, or do nothing. The limit was the 10 days were up. As Biden's choice approaches, the cryptocurrency industry waits. However, it's important to remember that in a statement sent on May 8th, the president said he would veto the resolution to overturn it. HJ Resolution 109 would throw out the SEC's SAB 121, which shows how the SEC staff thinks some companies should handle their financial duties to protect crypto assets. Using the Congressional Review Act could also make it harder for the SEC to set up the right safeguards and deal with future crypto asset problems like financial stability. Saylor doesn't think HJ Resolution 109 will be vetoed, even though this comment is scary. Here are some more excerpts from his conversation. Last but not least, you ride out of the fortress, take a chance, choose a side, join the fight, and make a choice. And, at the time, Team Bitcoin was the clear choice. The crypto movement was the clear choice. It came with a lot of risk, but the other option was either a slow or fast death. You keep saying we, but you brought it to your team, right? Well, I'm the one who started it, but the difference between an individual investor and a public company is that an individual investor can think about it, maybe talk about it with a family member, and then make a decision. A private company, on the other hand, thinks about it, talks to one major investor, 3 people in a private company, makes a decision, and then doesn't tell anyone. And if it's a public business, you might need to convince the CFO, the general counsel, the CEO, and the head of technology. Then you need to get the leaders to agree. The managers, directors, and officers need to get on the same page. Then you need to get agreement from the outside auditor and the outside lawyer. After you think about those two, you need to get the outside owners in the public company to agree. And the problem with buyers is that they change every morning at 9:30, and by 4 p.m., you have different buyers. You need to give a lot of thought to how you talk to, telegraph, and reach an agreement with the clients. Because of this, public companies are interesting. On the one hand, they're like a 19-legged race that's being fought. Building unity among many groups that have different amounts of information is like a very complicated dance. They also have different objectives. The lawyer for the company doesn't want you to be sued. The owners are responsible to the company. Some buyers believe one thing, while others believe something else. The negative or problem is that you have to find a balance between all of those groups. That being said, when a public company does something, it does it big. When we finally did something, it was to buy Bitcoin for $250 million. I wanted to do $500 million, but $250 million was a good middle ground for me. At the same time, we decided to buy back $250 million worth of our own stock. This was done as a safety net for all the shareholders who were worried about the strategy and wanted to get out of the business at a profit. That was our move, but looking back, $250 million was probably the biggest public purchase of Bitcoin that anyone had ever admitted to, or that the world had ever seen. It's possible that the government or other investors put in more money, but we don't know about them and can't trust them, right? 12 of them are from you. After we did that, we were able to do the next one, the next one, the next one. If you can get all of your interests to work together, public companies are very powerful tools. It would be very powerful to get a country to support Bitcoin, just like countries are powerful. There are just too many groups for you to please. So the activity turns into one about politics, manners, and diplomacy. I am amazed and pleased with what we have accomplished in 4 years. Yes, we did. I think there's been a change in the Bitcoin community's mind to look further into the future, I believe that there has been a change for the better in the media, such as on business TV networks. People used to be upset that Bitcoin wasn't talked about or that it was seen as a scam. And I think that with CNBC, Bloomberg, and Fox, we made Bitcoin a real asset class. I also believe that a lot of private companies played a big role. Private investors write me letters, and everyone I meet tells me, "Oh, I watched one of your videos and I finally got Bitcoin and I started buying a lot." There are a lot of individual investors, families, and businesses. And he always asked that question, like in my first show with Pump. He would ask a question at the end of the day and then leave. I watched his old show and noticed that he always ends with, "So, do you have a question for me?" I saw that and thought, I need to ask him something. That's why in my first Pump show. A group of lawmakers from both parties wrote a letter to